What kind of ancient construction could be so precise that two teams digging through solid rock, without modern tools, met in the middle of a mountain? Today we're diving into 10 constructions in the Bible that leave scientists speechless. Let's get into it. Solomon's Temple, also known as the First Temple, was built in 10th century Jerusalem before the Common Era. It was commissioned by King Solomon, son of David, to house the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred object believed to represent the very presence of God. This temple became the central place of worship for the Israelites and held profound national and spiritual significance. According to 1 Kings chapters 6 through 8 and 2 Chronicles chapters 3 through 7, its construction was an extraordinary feat. Phoenician artisans were employed, cedar wood was imported from Lebanon, and vast sections of the temple's interior were overlaid with pure gold. 1 Kings chapter 6 states that Solomon had the entire inner sanctuary covered in gold, creating an atmosphere of divine splendor unmatched in the ancient world. What also stands out is Solomon's dedication prayer. In 1 Kings chapter 8, he welcomes foreigners who come to worship and declares that even the highest heavens cannot contain God, let alone the temple itself. This showed a remarkable awareness that the divine could not be limited to stone walls. Despite its grandeur, the temple was destroyed in the year 586 before the Common Era by Babylonian forces under King Nebuchadnezzar. Its fall was a spiritual and national crisis, prompting deep theological reflection during the exile and contributing to the writing of major parts of the Hebrew Bible. To this day, the exact structure and location of Solomon's temple remain uncertain. Archaeological evidence is limited, but the biblical accounts, the writings of Josephus, and modern research by scholars like Israel Finkelstein and Neil Asher Silberman continue to explore its meaning, revealing that this temple was not just a religious site but a symbol of divine presence, political power, and enduring mystery. But if Solomon's temple was the beginning of a sacred legacy, what came next after its destruction might surprise you even more. Completed around 516 years before the Common Era, the Second Temple served as the heart of Jewish life for nearly 6 centuries, until its destruction by the Romans in the year 70. Following decades in Babylonian exile, the Jewish people were granted a remarkable opportunity. Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, issued a royal decree allowing their return to Jerusalem and even funded the temple's reconstruction. This extraordinary support from a foreign ruler, recorded in the Book of Ezra, was seen as a sign of divine favor. The rebuilding described in Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, and Zechariah carried great prophetic expectations. Many believed its completion would usher in a messianic age. When that hope did not materialize, it led to disappointment and theological reevaluation. One enduring mystery of the Second Temple was what it lacked: the Ark of the Covenant. So central in Solomon's First Temple, the Ark was missing. The Holy of Holies, its most sacred chamber, stood empty, altering temple rituals and shifting beliefs' focus. Centuries later, Herod the Great initiated an ambitious renovation, transforming the temple into a vast architectural marvel. He expanded its courts, added massive colonnades, and covered sections with polished white stone. While visually stunning, many questioned Herod's motives, suspecting political calculation behind his religious gesture. In the year 70, Roman forces led by General Titus besieged Jerusalem and destroyed the temple during a campaign. The ancient historian Josephus records that the fire was so intense, gold melted and flowed between the stones, leading soldiers to dismantle the structure, stone by stone. Its destruction marked a turning point. With sacrifices no longer possible, Jewish worship shifted toward prayer, Torah study, and synagogue life, practices that continue to shape Judaism to this day. Yet long before the temple ever stood, there was a construction so colossal and mysterious that it sparked legends across civilizations. What was it built for, and could it have happened? Stay tuned. One of the most remarkable constructions in the Bible is described in Genesis chapters 6 through 9, the account of Noah's Ark. Faced with a world consumed by violence and corruption, God chose to bring a global flood, sparing only Noah, his family, and pairs of every living creature. God commanded Noah to build a massive wooden ark, about 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. For the ancient world, this was an enormous structure, representing one of the earliest recorded feats of large-scale shipbuilding. What continues to puzzle readers and researchers is the level of architectural detail in the instructions. The ark was to be made of gopher wood, sealed with pitch, and constructed without modern tools or technology, yet capable of housing life through a catastrophic flood. The account emphasizes both functionality and purpose, framing the ark as a vessel of survival and a symbol of divine covenant. This covenant is a central element of the story. After the flood, God establishes a new relationship with humanity, marked by the appearance of a rainbow, signifying that such destruction would not occur again. Additionally, scholars have long noted similarities between the Genesis account and older Mesopotamian flood narratives, especially the Epic of Gilgamesh, which also describes a worldwide flood and a life-saving boat. This has led academics like John Walton and Kenneth A. Kitchen to explore the text as part of a broader ancient Near Eastern tradition, offering both historical and theological insight. In recent decades, interest in the Ark has extended beyond theology. Expeditions searching for its remains have focused on Mount Ararat, the mountain where the Ark is said to have come to rest. Books like The Genesis Flood by Whitcomb and Morris helped renew public fascination with the possibility of physical evidence. But once the floodwaters receded and humanity spread again, their next grand project would provoke a divine response unlike any other. What were they building that made God step in directly? One of the most thought-provoking constructions in the Bible is the Tower of Babel, described in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. After the flood, humanity still spoke a single language. United in purpose, they settled in the land of Shinar and began building a city with a tower reaching the heavens. Their goal: to make a name for themselves and avoid being scattered across the earth. But this act of pride led to a surprising divine response. Instead of destroying the structure, God confused their language, making communication impossible and scattering the people across the earth. The construction stopped, and the site became known as Babel, meaning confusion. The story offers a theological explanation for the diversity of languages and cultures and is often seen as a warning against human arrogance and centralized power. The narrative connects to broader biblical themes, later echoed in Acts chapter 2, where languages are miraculously understood at Pentecost, symbolizing unity through divine intervention. This contrast between division and restored harmony reinforces the spiritual depth of the Babel account. The structure itself bears a striking resemblance to Mesopotamian ziggurats, particularly the Itamaniki ziggurat in Babylon. This step tower, dedicated to the god Marduk, was referred to as a stairway to heaven. Scholars like Victor Hurowitz and John Walton suggest that the biblical account may be critiquing Babylonian imperial ideology, contrasting human glory with divine sovereignty. Today, the story remains surprisingly relevant, raising timeless questions about pride, communication, cultural division, and the limits of human ambition. From human pride to divine power. The next story flips the script, where walls don't go up, but instead come crashing down in one of history's most baffling victories. Before we continue, I have a special 10-second request for all of you listening. If you can help me in any way, just press the notification bell and hit that subscribe button. It means the world. It really supports this channel. And if you do that for me, I promise my team and I will do everything we can to make this show even better for you. Deal? Among the most astonishing construction-related events in the Bible is the dramatic fall of the walls of Jericho, as recorded in Joshua chapter 6. After crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land, the Israelites, under Joshua's leadership, faced their first major obstacle, Jericho, a heavily fortified Canaanite city. But what followed defied conventional warfare. According to the biblical account, God instructed the Israelites to march around the city once a day for 6 days, carrying the Ark of the Covenant and accompanied by priests blowing trumpets. On the 7th day, they marched around the city 7 times, shouted, and the walls miraculously collapsed. This account has long surprised readers, not only for its supernatural nature but also for its message. Victory came through faith and obedience, not military power. The story reinforces a central biblical theme: divine intervention triumphing over human strategy. Yet the narrative also intersects with a broader debate in archaeology. Excavations at Tel es-Sultan, the site identified as ancient Jericho, began in the early 20th century and continued into the mid-20th century under Kathleen Kenyon. Her findings suggested the city's walls had collapsed several centuries before the Israelite conquest, leading some scholars to question the biblical timeline. However, others have challenged that conclusion. Bryant Wood, a respected archaeologist, argued that revised interpretations of the stratigraphy could align with the biblical account, placing the destruction closer to the late 15th century before the Common Era. What makes the story of Jericho so compelling is not just the collapse of ancient walls, it's the enduring debate over faith, history, and the mysteries still buried in the dust of time. Miraculous collapses are one thing, but what about ancient engineering that defied logic? How did workers carve through solid rock and meet in the middle without modern tools? Stay tuned. Another extraordinary biblical construction that continues to challenge modern assumptions is Hezekiah's tunnel, also known as the Siloam Tunnel. Mentioned in 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 20, and 2 Chronicles chapter 32, verse 30, this ancient engineering project was built in the late 8th century before the Common Era, during the reign of King Hezekiah of Judah. Facing an imminent Assyrian invasion led by King Sennacherib, Hezekiah initiated a strategic defense effort, not with weapons but with water. He ordered the redirection of Jerusalem's main water source, the Gihon Spring, into the city by carving a 1,750-foot-long tunnel. The tunnel carried water to the Pool of Siloam, ensuring a secure supply during a siege. What continues to astonish scholars and engineers alike is how the project was executed. 2 teams began digging from opposite ends of the mountain and, with remarkable accuracy, met almost perfectly in the middle. This feat, achieved without modern surveying tools, was recorded in the Siloam inscription, an ancient Hebrew text discovered inside the tunnel in the 19th century. It not only confirms the biblical account but also provides one of the most direct archaeological links to a specific event described in Scripture. For decades, skeptics questioned whether such an advanced project could have been achieved in the Iron Age. But the tunnel's physical discovery in the 1830s, followed by extensive modern excavations, silenced many doubts. Scholars like Eilat Mazar and Amihai Mazar have cited Hezekiah's tunnel as clear evidence of Jerusalem's political organization and technological capability during that period. The city of Babylon holds a unique place in the Bible, surprising readers with its dual role as both a historical superpower and a lasting symbol of pride, idolatry, and divine judgment. Historically, Babylon was one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Known for its massive ziggurats, grand palaces, and the legendary Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, Babylon stood as a center of culture, religion, and imperial power in Mesopotamia. Its influence stretched across centuries. Biblically, Babylon first appears in Genesis chapter 11 as the site of the Tower of Babel. Later in the book of Daniel, it becomes the setting for the Jewish exile under King Nebuchadnezzar II, who is said to have brought captives from Jerusalem to serve in his royal court. Chapters 1 through 5 describe a city filled with both wealth and spiritual conflict. Yet Babylon's role in Scripture goes far beyond geography. It becomes a theological symbol, representing human arrogance and rebellion against God. In the book of Revelation, Babylon is no longer just a city. It represents corrupt systems, spiritual deception, and oppressive power. The fall of historical Babylon in the year 539 before the Common Era, when Cyrus the Great of Persia captured the city without a battle, fulfilled specific biblical prophecies. Texts like Isaiah chapters 13 and 14 and Jeremiah chapters 50 and 51 foretold Babylon's sudden collapse and eventual desolation. In the early 20th century, German archaeologist Robert Koldewey led major excavations of the site. Among the discoveries were the spectacular Ishtar Gate, temple foundations and palace ruins, evidence of Babylon's former glory and sudden decline, consistent with biblical descriptions in Isaiah chapter 13, verses 19 through 22. While Mount Sinai is not a man-made structure, it serves as the dramatic setting for one of the most defining moments in the Bible, the giving of the Ten Commandments and the formation of the Mosaic covenant between God and the people of Israel. According to Exodus chapters 19 and 20, the mountain was enveloped in thunder, lightning, thick cloud, fire, smoke, and the sound of a trumpet. This overwhelming display marked the arrival of God's presence and turned the mountain into more than just a sacred site, but it became the foundation for Israel's national and spiritual identity. What continues to surprise scholars is that Sinai is portrayed not only as a holy mountain but also as a divine construction site. It was here that Israel was built into a covenant nation. In the chapters that follow Exodus 25 through 31, God delivers detailed instructions for worship, civil law, and the tabernacle, which would serve as his dwelling place among the people. Theologians such as Michael Fishbane and John D. Levinson have pointed out that the Sinai narrative resembles a cosmic temple construction. The laws and rituals given their function as spiritual blueprints, forming the internal architecture of Israel's covenant relationship with God. Equally compelling is the ongoing debate over the historical and geographical location of Mount Sinai. While the traditional site is Jebel Musa in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, some propose Jebel al-Lawz in Saudi Arabia or other peaks in northwestern Arabia. However, to date, no archaeological evidence has definitively confirmed any of these locations. As noted in James K. Hoffmeyer's Israel in Sinai, the absence of physical remains from a large encampment has fueled skepticism about the historicity of the Exodus. Yet the power of the Sinai event lies not only in historical evidence but in its transformational significance. According to the biblical narrative, it was here that a group of former slaves received their identity as a covenant people, an idea that continues to shape Jewish, Christian, and Islamic theology to this day. But what happened when faith clashed with force in the final days of Jewish independence? The next story is not in the Bible, but its echoes are unforgettable. Although Masada is not directly mentioned in the Bible, it remains one of the most dramatic and emotionally charged sites connected to biblical history, especially in the context of Jewish resistance during the Roman period. Perched on a remote plateau overlooking the Dead Sea, Masada was originally fortified in the 1st century before the Common Era by Herod the Great. According to Flavius Josephus in the Jewish War, Herod transformed it into a palace complex and a secure refuge, complete with fortified walls, towers, storehouses, and luxurious living quarters. However, it is the fortress's final chapter during the First Jewish-Roman War, from the year 66 to 73, that continues to shock historians and archaeologists alike. After the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70, a group of Jewish rebels known as the Sicarii fled to Masada. There, they held out against Roman forces for several years. In the year 73, Roman troops built a massive earthen ramp to breach the fortress walls, sections of which are still visible today. What has surprised many is how Masada evolved into a powerful symbol of Jewish resistance and national identity, especially in the 20th century. Despite the moral complexity of the event, the story became central to the modern Israeli narrative of survival and heroism. The archaeological discoveries at Masada have only deepened its impact. In the 1960s, excavations led by Yigael Yadin uncovered Herod's palaces, storerooms, ritual baths, defensive structures, and human remains, providing strong material evidence to support Josephus's account. Though not a biblical event in itself, Masada is often viewed as the final echo of the biblical era, a moment that links the fall of the Second Temple with the end of Jewish sovereignty for nearly 2,000 years. And finally, what if a place thought to be legend turned out to be real? The last site brings scripture and stone together in a discovery that stunned even the skeptics. Among the most surprising archaeological confirmations of a biblical site is the Pool of Bethesda, featured in John chapter 5, verses 1 through 15. According to the Gospel account, this pool in Jerusalem near the Sheep Gate was believed to have healing powers. Crowds of the sick and disabled gathered there, waiting for the waters to be stirred, believing the first person to enter would be healed. In this setting, Jesus heals a man who had been paralyzed for 38 years, not through the water, but by word alone. This act emphasized divine authority over popular superstition and established Jesus' power to heal apart from ritual or tradition. For centuries, many scholars believed the Pool of Bethesda was symbolic or fictional. No physical evidence had been found to verify its existence. But that changed in the late 19th century, when archaeologists uncovered the remains of a large double pool near St. Anne's Church in Jerusalem, matching the detailed description in the Gospel of John. Even more surprising was what the excavation revealed. The site included remnants of a pagan healing sanctuary dedicated to Asclepius, the Greco-Roman god of healing. This discovery provided vital cultural context, explaining why the site had a reputation for miraculous cures and why so many people believed in the power of the waters. Archaeologists also uncovered 5 covered porticos, just as described in John chapter 5, verse 2, a detail long assumed to be symbolic, but now confirmed as historically accurate architecture. This alignment between the biblical narrative and physical evidence reshaped scholarly opinion on the historical reliability of the Gospel of John, which had often been viewed as theological rather than historical. Scholars such as Craig S. Keener and Jerome Murphy O'Connor have cited the Pool of Bethesda as a rare but powerful convergence of scripture and archaeology. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Click on the video that appears on your screen right now. I'm sure you'll love this content. Comment below about the next topic you'd like to see featured on our channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.